Hi, friends. Over the course of the last 24 hours, I've gotten a ton of incoming from Americans, Danes, Greenlanders alike, wanting me to share my perspective on Trump's increasingly adversarial rhetoric vis-a-vis his desire to purchase Greenland. And so I wanted to share a few thoughts. And so for folks who don't know, I was ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, which includes Greenland. I have enormous love and respect for Greenland, the Greenlandic people. And I've been there 9 times to all corners of the extraordinary country. And it means a lot to me. So that's what I come at this from, and also have a good sense, of course, of the political dynamics and otherwise. So a few things here. Look, I'm trying to make Americans understand just sort of how bizarre and kind of offensive yesterday's press conference at Mar-a-Lago was to Danes and Greenlanders. And so we're trying to come up with a good analogy. And I don't know that there's a perfect one, but to me, it's this. It's like, it would be like the incoming Prime Minister of Australia, a great ally, someone we've been in lockstep with for years and years and years, before he or she even takes office, demanding Hawaii for issues, sort of vague issues of national and economic security. And then if that person doesn't, and he or she doesn't get his way, threatening military or economic action to punish one of our closest and longstanding allies. And that's just true. So that's just sort of the closest analogy that I can come up with. And even though it's not perfect, but we have no historical or cultural ties to Greenland. We have no claim to it in any way. This is an independent nation that is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. And regardless of where it is geographically, right? Regardless of where it is geographically, these are just the facts. And it goes to a larger issue associated with Donald Trump's strategy vis-a-vis diplomacy and foreign policy, which is diplomacy and foreign policy by press conference and tweet, and not by the way that it has been done historically, especially with allies, which is to build trust across borders to get work done to the mutual benefit of all people. That is what has one of the reasons why America is actually great, is that our diplomatic footprint around the world has made a real difference. And that is the opposite of what we saw at Mar-a-Lago yesterday. Let's talk about the arguments he makes. One, okay, national security. There's a lot has been said, and conservative commentators and whatnot very often will say things like, well, we need this for national security reasons. It's strategically placed. It's close to Russia. The Chinese have interest. All of this. That is true. All of that is true. And they'll say, look, Harry Truman wanted to try to buy Greenland. He's a Democrat for the same reasons. Also true. The difference between Harry Truman and now? The answer is NATO. So NATO, because Denmark is a founding member of NATO, Greenland and Denmark oversees national foreign policy and national security policy for Greenland, that were there to be some sort of invasion or incursion into Greenland at some point, would invoke Article 5 of NATO, and the entire alliance would be compelled to respond. In many ways, the solution to what Harry Truman was guarding against was NATO. And that's exactly why, in many ways, the alliances has been such a success. And so in my mind, the only reason why a national security argument makes any sense would be if Donald Trump is actually threatening to remove the United States from NATO. And that should scare us all. So think about that. National security piece. Okay. Economic security. Okay, so economic security, and we've talked a lot about this, whether it's rare earth minerals, oil and gas, shipping lanes, all the rest. All that's totally true. There is very little doubt that with increasing climate change, melting sea ice, whatnot, that there's probably opportunity in this part of the world economically that hasn't existed before. And you see some of our adversaries like China really looking very closely at this. Well, that's all true too. This is the thing. One, we don't have any right to that necessarily. Two, there's zero reason why American private industry can't go in right now, just like the Chinese are, right? So the Chinese are looking at mining. Some said there have been some mines there. This is something we worked very closely on when I was an ambassador, trying to see what we could do to encourage American investment, which is a very difficult part of the world to invest in, considering where it is and the elements. But it's still possible that Greenland is open for business and would love nothing more than for American investment in Greenland. The Danes would love it. The Greenlanders would love it. And I think Americans would benefit. That doesn't require American ownership of a country and its people. But really, so those are the arguments that just don't make any sense logically. But I think what bothers me the most as an American and as someone who does love diplomacy is that this is diplomacy by bullying. And bullies cannot get their way. And the only thing they do respond to is strength. So somehow the international community, I don't just mean Denmark, I don't just mean Greenland, has got to stand up to bullying tactics. Because if bullies win, democracy takes a hit. Diplomacy takes a hit. Alliances take a hit. Partnerships take a hit. So we got a lot of work to do. This hasn't even started yet. But I can tell you this. We simply can't take our eye off the ball here. That Mar-a-Lago press conference yesterday was just the beginning. And, let's stay engaged. Thank you, my friends. Happy to talk or answer any questions.